Hello and welcome to Fernbank Science Center's The Sky This Week for August 15 through 21st, 2021. We begin the week with the first quarter moon, look for some of the autumn constellations in the evening sky, and find bright planets pretty much all night long this week. Begin with the first quarter moon. Earth has moved along its orbit, and the moon has moved about a quarter of the way along its orbit from new moon phase last week. The light is on the right-hand side of the moon. The sun is shining on that side. When the light is on the right, the moon is waxing. It will appear fatter and fatter each night as we go through the week. Light on the right. First quarter moon this year, Sunday, August 15th at 11:19 a.m. Now, at 11:19 a.m., the moon is still below the horizon for us. The first quarter moon rises around noon and sets around midnight. See if you can find it in the early afternoon of the first part of this week. By evening on August 15th, 10 o'clock or so, looking toward the eastern part of the sky, that's the direction the sun appears to rise. So find that place on your observing spot. And there are two bright planets, the two largest in our solar system, visible toward the eastern part of the sky, Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is the brighter of the two. This image is a little deceiving. They are not going to look like large blobs on the sky, but tiny dots like the other stars. Jupiter much, much brighter than Saturn is. Draw some lines in between the stars around them, and the great square of Pegasus is toward the left-hand side of those two bright planets. If you have a nice, dark, clear sky, you won't get the lines and names, but you will get that pattern. Big square for the body of the horse, long neck, nose. On another corner, a couple of front legs sticking up into the sky as he gallops higher. The planets Jupiter and Saturn, as I said, the largest ones in our solar system, they're pretty far away from the sun. Think about Earth. We're about 93 million miles from the sun. Astronomers use the term an astronomical unit to describe that distance. So Earth is about 1 astronomical unit from the sun. Jupiter is 5 times farther, 5 AU from the sun. And Saturn is 10 astronomical units from the sun. So they're far out in space. On Tuesday the 17th, look over toward the southwest part of the sky, and the bright star-like object toward the west will be the planet Venus. Venus is closer to the sun than Earth is, so we see it sometimes in the early evening sky, when it's sometimes called the evening star, sometimes in the early morning sky, when it appears as the morning star. If you can find that waxing moon over toward the south part of the sky, Venus will be the bright star-like object a little closer to the western horizon. Again, exaggerated size for the planet Venus. It will be a really bright star-like object. Toward the middle of the week, look over toward the north part of the sky. For this one, if you put your right shoulder toward the eastern direction, your nose will be facing north, and the North Star, Polaris, is visible if you have a clear sky. A little over toward the left of north, there's that pattern of the Big Dipper, long handle, 4 stars for a cup shape. These two are sometimes called the pointer stars. They point toward the North Star, Polaris, and Polaris is on the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. Much fainter stars, more difficult to find. Follow the pointers toward Polaris, but this time keep going, and there's a little zigzag of stars, the constellation of Cassiopeia, the Queen. And beyond her, a little higher on the sky, is this lovely little smudge that we'll be looking at. Add some lines again. Find that pattern of the Big Dipper Note that it is part of the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear. Point 2, Polaris. Ursa Minor, Little Bear. Zigzag for Cassiopeia. And a little farther on, a string of stars for the Princess Andromeda. Look a little more toward the east. Focus on that zigzag for Cassiopeia, fairly high up in the sky. And note that over toward the edge here, here's our great square for Pegasus, a little higher in the sky than it was when we were looking at some of the other planets. And off one corner are two long strings of stars. Now, if you're not sure about sizes, because this is a little deceiving, use your left hand measuring stick. Stretch your left arm straight out, lock your elbow, spread your fingers out as wide as they'll go. Put the tip of your left thumb on this corner of the horse's square. Tip of your pinky finger will stretch all the way down to the end of these two strings of stars, Andromeda. And your index finger will be pointing to a tiny smudge of light. Now we're going to be looking way out in space, not just astronomical units. Now we're going for light years. Square of Pegasus. Strings of Andromeda. And again, your index finger will be pointing toward that area. It will look like a little thumbprint of light if you have a really dark sky. And through a really big telescope, it looks like this, the Andromeda Galaxy, named so because it's near that constellation. And sometimes you see the designation M31, Messier 31. It's a list of what are called deep sky objects. In the late 1700s, Charles Messier, a French astronomer and comet hunter, was busy looking for things with his fairly good telescope, things in the evening sky. He was hunting for comets. There were prizes for the number of comets that you could discover. But he kept finding things that weren't comets. We would watch them and they'd be in the same spot every night. They didn't move from night to night like comets do. So he kept a list of those and he published his list of 103 objects in 1781. The Andromeda Galaxy is the 31st object on that list, hence M31. By the end of the week, the moon is getting pretty close to full, and we're near those bright planets again toward the south part of the sky. This is fairly high up in the sky. On this image, it looks kind of low to the ground, but they're a good halfway up the sky or so. And the moon is near Saturn. Now, when the moon gets that close to full, it's shedding light all over the place, and it's going to be hard to find Saturn, but Jupiter should still be easily visible. That evening, Thursday and Friday, Jupiter is at opposition, where Earth is along its orbit and Jupiter is along its orbit. Jupiter is opposite the Sun from Earth. Where we stand and look out into space, we can see Jupiter and Saturn sort of in the same part of the sky. So Jupiter will be up all night long, rising at sunset, high in the south at midnight, setting in the early morning. That's Thursday the 19th is opposition at 8 p.m. The sky's not real dark by then, but you could keep an eye out for that this week. And again, thanks for listening. Please keep an eye on Fernbank Science Center's website, www.fernbank.edu. Find our Facebook page for this and for other activities going on, and Saturday science programs and Friday evening virtual planetarium programs. Have a great week.